everyone, welcome to yoga. My name is Ashley, and today we are going to be doing our monthly gentle class. Super exciting. And it was requested last week that we focus on the legs, and so today is all about the legs. We're going to do the shins, the calves, the quads, the hips, the hamstrings, all of the above, and it's going to be amazing. Before we start, I wanted to start with a quote that I found in this book of meditations I have called Meditations from the Mat, Daily Reflections on the Path of Yoga by Rolf Gates and Katrina Kennison. And in this book, there's a day 360, and there's a quote by Roman S., who is just a yoga teacher, which says, "As you comb through your body for tension, you learn how to go beneath the surface of what you see, to connect to what you feel, to the emotions inside the sensation. When you can discern what is behind what you feel, you can practice becoming still there." With that being said, let's go ahead and practice. Feel free to close your eyes or gaze at a point out in front of you and connect to your natural breath. Become aware of how you're feeling emotionally, mentally, physically, spiritually. Taking this as an opportunity to greet yourself where you're at. The first step of turning more inward toward yourself. As a way of stepping into our practice, we can sing the sound Om one time. Feel free to sing along or listen, or instead just take a long exhale. Take a full breath in. Exhale completely. Inhale again. Release your hands, gently open your eyes, come into downward facing dog. For the people that are watching this after the fact, there will be a link to the playlist in the description. Make sure in your down dog, your hands are shoulder distance. Index fingers point straight ahead. Grip the floor with all 10 fingertips and push the inner edges of your hands down. Feel free to bend your knees or straighten your legs, or you can pump your legs, bending and straightening. You can also do one leg at a time for the down dog jog. Really work on stretching through your heel, reaching out through your entire back of your leg, down through your foot. Take slow, steady breaths and do your best to stay connected with that slow and steady breath throughout the practice. Postures will be held for quite a while, so always feel free to exit postures when you need to, if you cannot wait for the end of the pose. Come back to a neutral downward dog. If you're moving around, reach your heels back for a couple more breaths. Long inhale. Long exhale. Bring your feet together. Curl your toes under, sit on your knees, sit on your heels, and then sit back, lift your torso up. You can totally just keep your hands out in front of you and just focus all the attention on your toes and on your feet, or interlace your fingers in front of your heart. Clamp your fingers closed as you take the backs of your hands on top of your head. Pull your shoulder blades toward each other as you reach your arms towards straight. Gently draw your rib cage back, your tailbone forward. Lengthen the sides of your body longer. If you know Ujjayi pranayama, the kind of breath that sounds like you're fogging up a mirror, feel free to do Ujjayi, or just take long breaths. Do your best to control your inhale and exhale so they're about 5 to 8 counts in, 5 to 8 counts out. Release your hands to the floor. Flip to the tops of your feet, squeeze knees and ankles in, have a seat on your feet. Keeping your knees and your ankles together, take your arms back behind you, palms point up, and fold forward for a child's pose variation. Rest your forehead to the floor. If your head doesn't reach, you can always use a pillow or a block under your head as well. Just let your shoulders drop, falling off of your back. Relax everything. You might feel this stretch not only in your back, but maybe in your shins, fronts of your legs. Bring your fingertips to the floor next to your ears. Move your shoulders back, lift your chin, then slowly sit up. Come to all fours, hands and knees. And then step your right foot outside your right hand for a low lunge. Slide your left knee back just a few inches and then pull your back leg slightly forward so you roll toward the top of your kneecap. And then maybe lower your forearms to the floor or use a block or stay up on your hands. For this one, don't focus so much on squeezing your right knee into your shoulder. Just kind of gently pull it in just enough so there's a little engagement. And then maybe rock your hips side to side, creating a rocking motion, helping your left hip to open up a little bit more on the front. And if that doesn't feel very good, feel free to just be still. Half Hanuman. Take your hands to the floor, lift your torso up. Then just heel toe your right foot to the front midline of your mat and take your right hand outside your foot. Slide your left knee back a few inches to lift your right toes off the floor. Feel free to bend your right knee or straighten it as you fold evenly, rounding your back, chest first, head last toward your right shin. Do gently draw your right hip back and your left hip forward. And that'll create a little bit of tension on your right heel. So you'll have a little bit extra stretch on the back of your leg. It can be nice to close your eyes for as much of the practice as you can. Bend your right knee again. Walk your hands back just a few inches and then plant your right foot back into the floor as you slide your back knee forward again so you're in this lunge shape. Then take your left hand forward and to the left so your fingers point out. Keep your back toes curled under and lift your back knee off the floor. Turn your right toes to the right and then flip to your left outer foot. And then try to lower your outer left hip to the floor. If it doesn't reach, try sliding your right foot a little bit further back toward the back of your mat and then lowering your hip to the floor. Push through your left arm and then turn your torso toward your right knee and take your right arm to your right knee with your palm pointing up. Keep your spine long and reach through your left big toe mount as you push your outer left leg into the floor gently. Actively point your right knee more toward the ceiling. And slowly untwist. Take your right hand to the floor. Turn your right toes a little forward. Push through your back foot to lift your hips. And then come into all fours again. All that on the other side. Take your left knee outside your left hand. And slide your right knee back a few inches. Pull yourself a little bit forward. And then maybe drop your forearms to the floor or to a block. Again, just gently squeeze in with your left thigh, but don't overdo it. And then maybe rock your hips side to side. Couple more breaths. Slowly push yourself back up. Heel toe your left foot to the front midline of your mat for half Hanuman. Work your left leg straighter. Slide your right knee back just a few inches. And then fold to your capacity over your left leg. Heart first, head last. And gently pull your left leg back so you feel a little bit more stretch on your left back of your leg. And just allow your head to hang heavy. Soften your jaw and the space between your eyebrows, your whole forehead. Slowly shift forward. Walk your hands back, bend your left knee, slide your back knee forward, take your right hand forward into the right, curl your back toes under, lift your knee, turn onto your outer right foot. Again, maybe slide your left foot back a little bit to lower your hip. And then take your left arm to your left thigh, palm pointing up, and gaze beyond your left fingertips. Push through your right big toe mount. Push gently into the floor with your right pinky toe. What's great about all of these leg postures is they might also stretch somewhere in your torso, like your side body, close to the hips. It can also stretch your lower back and your lower belly as well. And slowly lean into your left hand, push down through your feet, lift up, and then come back to all fours. Calf smash. Turn your left shin so that it's like a half of an X to the right, and then your right shin stacked on top of your left calf. And then squeeze your knees in just a little bit, and then have a seat toward your feet. Feel free to put as much weight in your legs as you'd like. That might mean you stay leaning forward on your hands. You can also use blocks under your hands for support to push into. And then maybe, if you like, you can seesaw forward and back. There's also the swivel, where you kind of shift your hips left and right. And you can also just stay still. And shift forward. Switch the cross of your legs so your left shin is on top, or whichever one you didn't do. Squeeze your knees in. Sit back slowly. And one leg might feel a little different than the other, so treat it a little differently. If it needs more weight, you can give it more weight, less weight, so on and so forth. Maybe do the seesaw or the swivel. And just allow yourself to breathe deep, even breaths into the spaces that feel limited, tight, congested, so on. And then shift forward. Same thing, only on your feet. Turn your left toes in, and then take your right foot on top of your left inner arch, and then have a seat on your feet. And again, you can shift your hips side to side, or you can push down into your foot to kind of do the seesaw motion again. And just kind of like try different movements. Maybe go back and forth between those two, or just stay still. By doing this, we're helping to unlock the fascia that might be tight and bundled up in the legs and feet, which may be cause for why our legs might be tight or painful or restless. And then switch sides, take your left foot on top of your right arch, and have a seat. And do whatever feels best, be still or move around a little bit. Keep your breath deep, slow, meaningful, with intention. And shift forward. Take your hands, you can either keep them facing straight ahead or add in a forearm stretch by turning your fingers backwards or toward backwards. And then just take your right leg back behind you, curl your toes under, and then push your heel back toward the wall behind you. Big stretch to the back of your leg after all of that smashing. And switch sides, lower your right knee, take your left leg back, heel toward the wall behind you, toes curled under. And then lower your foot, turn your hands back around. Either from all fours or from downward dog, come into pigeon, bringing your ankles or your knees together first, and then taking your right knee behind your right wrist. Lower your left knee in line with your right heel and then slide it back. Feel free to set your hip on a block for more support or a blanket. And then maybe take your forearms down to the floor. Yeah. Then feel free to stay like this, head dropping, or you can use a block under your forehead, or you can take your whole torso down to the floor if it reaches, and just rest your head on your knuckles or on your hands or just on the floor. And do give a gentle, not an extreme squeeze between your knees, squeezing them toward each other, ever so slightly. Feel free to stay here or lift your torso up. We're coming into the non-back-bended quad stretch. If you prefer the back-bended one, feel free to do so instead. Otherwise, lean a little bit onto your right hip and take your right hand over to the right for support. And then slide your left knee a little closer to your right foot. Bend your knee to grab your foot, and then maybe slide your knee back again. And then pull your heel toward your outer hip. Give it a nice squeeze toward your hip and hold. Lower your foot. And then shift back to either all fours or downward dog. Just switch sides. Take your left knee behind your left wrist. Right knee behind your left heel. Slide it back. Squeeze your knees gently toward each other as you lower your torso toward the floor. And take several slow, deep, even breaths here. If your mind begins to wander around, just gently bring it back. Slowly sit back up. Quad stretch. Lean to your left. Pull your right knee toward your left foot. Grab your foot. And then slide your knee back. And breathe here. Lower your foot. Instead of coming up into all fours or down dog, just swing your legs out in front of you. Come into yoga staff pose, Dandasana. Walk your sitting bones back, reach your legs forward, point your toes and kneecaps up. Your feet can be hip distance or together. Flare your toes and then try to flare your pinky toe away from your ring toe as best as you can. If you can reach, you can even try spacing it with your index finger. Just try to make space there. That'll help to create space all the way up through the tendons and ligaments in your legs, all the way up into your hips. Try to keep all of that space with your toes, keeping them spread. Pull your right knee towards you. And then pull your heel towards your hips so your right foot comes off the floor. And then try to slide your right heel outside your left hip. And then point your right toes. And then if your knee can come down, feel free to take it down. If not, feel free to wrap your arms or your fingers around your outer shin instead. And just pull your sternum and your leg toward each other. And if you are able from here, you can maybe try leaning forward. Otherwise, stay upright. If your knee comes down, feel free to hook your left wrist in front of your right foot for support and to keep it there. And then squeeze that leg into your outer thigh and maybe forward fold, grabbing your shin, ankle, or foot with your right hand. Feel free to take your head down as low as desirable. And just hold wherever best suits you today. Try to relax your shoulders, your neck, and deepen your breath. Half cow face. Next inhale, lengthen your spine. Slowly sit up. Extend your right leg forward, flare your toes, tone your thigh, lift your kneecap. And then keep your left toes flared as you pull your heel toward your hip, foot active. And then pull your heel off the floor, lean back a little bit to slide your left foot over your right thigh and then point your left toes. And again, either wrap your arms around your leg or drop your leg to your thigh. Feel free to hook your right hand in front of your left ankle and do or don't forward fold. If you're grabbing your foot, shin, or ankle, go ahead and grab that with your left hand. And feel free to drop your head. Do squeeze into your right outer thigh with your left shin, left calf. That can help to relieve a tight IT band. Remember your breath. Sometimes it can be helpful to pick a point out in front of you and just stare at it, and then try to stare into it and penetrate the area that you're looking at with your eyes. And use that to take your attention more deeper inside yourself. Next inhale, slowly sit back up. Extend your left leg straight, flare your toes, tone your thighs, lift your kneecaps. And then I'm just gonna turn so you can see me, not mirroring you. Take your right shin on top of your left shin. You may have where your right knee won't go down. And if that's you, you can either prop it up with a blanket, a block, or something under your hip, Or you can take your top leg in front of your bottom leg and stack knees on top of feet. Whichever one you did, push through your big toe edges of your feet toward the sides of the room, and then push your outer feet down into the floor to lift your ankles up. And then do or don't fold forward. You can push hands into feet, feet into hands. Or if you can keep that engagement with your feet, maybe walk your arms out in front of you. Do clamp your heels gently towards your hips as you fold. Feel free to take forearms down and round as far forward as feels optimal for you today. Slowly sit back up and switch the cross of your legs so your other shin is on top or in front of your other shin. And then push through the big toe edges of your feet, lift your ankles up, make sure you're sitting evenly on your sitting bones, clamp your heels toward your hips as you gently forward fold or stay upright, maybe hands into feet, or maybe arms out in front of you, maybe forearms to the floor. Feel free to drop your head. Keep your feet active. Try not to let your ankles collapse to the floor. And if you're listening to the music, you can even use the music to take you on a journey more inward as well. And on your next inhale, slowly sit back up. And then gently uncross your legs. Take your feet together and your knees wide. And then one at a time, walk your sitting bones back so they're on the floor evenly. Then you can either scoot yourself a little more forward toward your heels, or if you feel too close to your heels, you can pick up your hips and scoot them back. But do try to create a scooting motion forward so you have your flesh of your bottom moving backward. Feel free to open the big toe edges of your feet away from each other, and then hook your thumbs into the inner arches and your fingers around the tops of your feet. And then push your feet into each other to widen your knees out rather than pushing them down. And then try to turn on just a little bit, tone your outer glutes. Then maybe take your heart first, head last forward. Feel free to stay upright instead. Feel free to walk your arms forward, just like child's pose. And if you can drop your head to the floor or take your head to a block and rest here. On your next inhale, slowly sit back up. Take your hands outside your knees to pull your legs together. And if you're not already facing the long edge of your mat, go ahead and face the long edge of your mat and then take your feet as wide as the corners of your mat. You can also go narrower rather than this far apart from each other. Feel free to sit up on something if you're sitting back on your lower back so that your lower back moves in. And keep your toes and kneecap pointing straight up. Feel free to lean back on your hands or fold forward. Maybe take your forearms down. Just like the last pose, you can use a block or a blanket or something under your head. Some of you might be able to take your torso all the way to the floor. Go wherever you feel you can be restful, yet integrated in your muscles and in your pose. And slowly lift yourself back up. Grab underneath your knees with your hands. Use your hands to pull them in. And then take yourself so that you are still facing the long edge of your mat, but take your knees wide so you're on your inner shins. And this is the frog leg pose that I really like. So you can stay here or take your knees wider. The idea is not to lean forward, it's to sit your bottom back towards your heels. Do or don't lower your forearms to the floor. And just allow your inner thigh muscles to stretch. Try to be in a place that doesn't feel like you're overstretching. Either pull yourself forward and then walk your legs back and then walk your knees in, or push your hands down to walk your knees in and then lie down on your back. Once you're here, take your right ankle on top of your left knee for Sukhi Randrasana. Clamp your heel towards your hip as you point your knee to the right. And then maybe draw your legs a little closer into your chest. Interlace your fingers around your left thigh or shin with your right arm under your right calf. And maybe rock side to side. Keeping your right ankle crossed over your knee, let go of your hands from your legs. Take your arms just to the floor like cactus arms. And then take your left foot to the floor, scoot your hips to the right, and then let your legs fall over to the left, keeping your right knee pointing toward the ceiling and the sole of your right foot into the floor. Outer left shin and thigh touching the floor. This is Tibetan weaponry prep. Feel free to stay here, pushing ankle into knee, knee into ankle, or grab left hand over to the top of your right foot toward the outer edge, right hand to the inner edge of your left foot toward the top, and then pull your left heel back toward your left hip on the floor. Roll toward your outer left hip as you kick your right leg off to the left. As you do that, rotate your outer right hip away from your right shoulder and pull your right shoulder back toward the floor. Remember your breath, slow, deep, and even. Bend your right knee. Place your right ankle back to your left knee. Point your right knee back up. And then slowly lift your legs back up, keeping your right ankle over your left knee. Scoot your hips to your left and let your right knee fall to the right. Slide the inner edge of your left foot to the floor to the left. Then push your knee up into your leg, your foot back down into your knee. You can also switch so that the sole of your right foot is to your thigh instead of your ankle. And then reach up beyond your head, grab your left wrist and pull up in the opposite direction as you push your knee toward the wall. And gently unhook your foot and your wrist. Slowly lift your legs back up, scoot your hips back to center, and then cross your left ankle over your right knee. Sukhi Randrasana, second side, pull your legs toward you, interlace fingers around right thigh or shin. Maybe rock side to side, focus on the left side this time. Keep your left ankle crossed over your right knee, let go of your leg. Take your arms to the floor, right foot to the floor. Then scoot your hips just a little to the left, drop your legs to the right. Sole of left foot, outer right thigh to the floor, left knee pointing up. Stay squeezing your ankle and knee in, or take right hand to left foot, left hand to right foot, right heel to right hip. Roll toward your outer right hip and kick your left foot to the right. And then maybe stack or tack your left shoulder back as you tack your outer left hip away from your left shoulder. Then bend your left knee, point your left knee back up. Let go of your hands from your feet, lift your legs back up, scoot your hips to your right and let your knee fall to the left. Inner right foot to the floor, slide it to the right. Push foot into leg, leg into foot, maybe flip to sole, a foot to thigh. And then reach your arms above your head, clasp your left hand over your right wrist, and pull up in the opposite direction. And unhook your wrist, unhook your foot, come back up, hips to center. Then from inside your legs, grab outside your feet, happy baby. Push your feet up into your hands, then pull your hands down into your feet and gently rock side to side on your back if it feels okay to do so. Then take your right big toe with your first 2 fingers and thumb of your right hand. Push foot in a hand, hand in a foot. Then take your left foot flat on the floor so your knee points up. Then start to turn your right foot out toward the wall at your right and maybe take the outer edge of your right foot to the floor. Do or don't extend your left leg straight along your mat. Reach your left fingers along your left thigh toward your left knee and extend through the top of your head. Keep your left toes and kneecap lifting toward the ceiling. Bend both of your knees, come back to happy baby, and then take your left big toe with your first 2 fingers and thumb of your left hand, lower your right foot to the floor, knee pointing up, and start to kick your left leg to the left and maybe straighten your left leg. Maybe straighten your right leg along the floor, reach your right arm along your right thigh. Push foot into hand, hand into foot. Keep right toes and kneecap pointing up. Then gently lift your legs back up, bend your knees, come back into happy baby. This one's a little weird, so bear with me. You can either do the same pose we just did, or take your right big toe with your first 2 fingers and thumb with your right hand. Lean onto your right knee, and then take your left arm outside your left leg, bend your left knee, and grab the outer edge of your left foot. And then flip the top of your left foot to the floor. It might just go top toes to the floor. You can stay here, or if you can slide your whole top of your foot to the floor, maybe kick your right leg off to the right, just like you did in the last pose. Your left knee may or may not come down. Sometimes you have to scoot down to get it to go lower, and that may or may not be feasible today. We're getting into the left hip flexors, really deep muscles between your hips and your torso. In order to come out, take the outer edge of your left ankle with your left hand and then lean onto your right hip to pull your left knee up and then come back to happy baby. Flip, so your left fingers wrap around your left big toe. Grab outer edge of your right foot with your right hand. Lean onto your left knee. And then maybe flip to the tops of your toes, stay there. Or flip all the way to the top of your foot and extend your left leg off to the left. You can grab anywhere along your right foot, ankle or heel with your right hand. And push your right knee toward the wall. Maybe scoot down to take your leg lower. Totally up to you. And then lean onto your left hip to pull your right foot out from underneath you. Come back to happy baby. Push feet into hands, hands into feet. And then take your knees together. your arms outside your legs. You can either grab your calves, your shins, ankles, feet, ribs to thighs, and then extend your legs towards straight only to the point that your ribs and thighs stay connected. And then let your lower back come off the floor, maybe even your middle back, but don't go any higher than your upper back. Make sure there's no weight in your neck. And then push feet into hands, hands into feet, rooting your femur leg bone into your hip socket as you push your legs longer. Reclined intense west stretch or Urdhva Mukha Paschimottanasana 2. Flare your toes like you did earlier. Tone your thighs, lift your kneecaps if your legs are straight. And then slowly roll down your spine. Bend your knees and wrap your elbows around your legs. Feel free to rock side to side. You have a couple options, or many options for Shavasana. You can rest in Shavasana, back of your body on the floor, palms point up, legs wide. Or I'm recommending taking legs up the wall for Viparita Karani. If you're doing that, feel free to use a blanket under your hips for support, for padding. Also feel free to rest on your belly, your side, or seated. And if you choose one of those postures and sometime through you want to change your mind and go into something else, always feel free to do so. We'll be here for about 7 minutes. Enjoy. Take a full breath in. And as you exhale, let it out with a sigh. If you've got legs up the wall, gently bend your knees and roll over to one side and rest here for a moment. If you're in any other position, begin to wiggle your fingers, your toes, roll your wrists and ankles, and gently bend your knees and roll to one side. Then using your arms, press yourself back up to a comfortable seat. Feel free to either join your palms in front of your heart or rest your hands on your thighs for one final Om. Take a full breath in. Exhale completely. Inhale again. Feel free to place your hands on your heart. Take a moment here to acknowledge yourself, each other, this practice, and anyone or anything else. Take as much time as you need, and then gently enter into the rest of your day. Thank you all so much for coming to practice with me today. Have a wonderful rest of your day. Take care.